Hi, it's Rob from the Brush and Boltgun. Today I'm going to be doing a tutorial on how to paint the lightning effect on power blades.
So the first thing we need to do is give the blade a nice coat of a silvery metallic. So for this we're going to use Vallejo Model Air Chrome. It is a very smooth colour and it goes on. So we're going to use this to start with. I'm just going to speed up the initial application of this and also the application of the following wash as well, just because it's dead easy to do. You can't go wrong with this bit, to be honest. So give that a nice smooth coat and then we can move on to the next one. So now we're going to use some Citadel Nuln Oil Gloss. You're just going to give the whole blade a nice coat of this. Always try and do slightly more of the gloss on the underside of the blade, so the lower edge, just so that's a little tiny bit darker than the top edge, just to give that a little bit of shading. And we can move on to the next part. So to do the lightning, the first colour that we're going to use is Citadel Ahriman Blue. You're going to paint the little nodule bit at the end of the kind of wire, not too sure what you call this bit, but you're painting that with the Ahriman Blue, and then you're going to start working lightning from that point further around the blade. So you're going to do slight zigzags or little kind of crinkly lines, not straight, just sort of jagged, like if you see lightning in the sky, or get a picture of that and just have a look at it and then sort of try and copy that kind of jaggedy method that it comes down rather than straight lines. It's all over the place. That's the kind of effect that you want to try and be getting when you're painting this Ahriman Blue on. So never try and do one long stretch right to the end of the blade because it looks a little bit strange. So rather than doing that, you want to try and stagger it so you'll have bits going off to the left and the right, slowly working their way up the blade. Now, depending on how you do it, sometimes it looks really good, other times not so good. So just going to concentrate on this one side, and then you'll see little bits a bit further along when it doesn't take as long to do the other side as well. You're doing little lighter highlights, but just keep doing these little jaggedy lines of lightning going down the blade. And once you've got the rough parts that run all the way to the end of the blade, you can then go back and fill in some of the larger gaps. Make them uneven so that the distance between them is always a little bit random. You also want a couple of little ones just down by the base of the nodule as well, like so. We can add them on very quickly. Like so. Then you want to work on the sides of the blade so that you can see where those lightning bits go, so that you can then continue them on the other side of the blade. So now we're going to add a little bit of white to the Ahriman Blue. And where you're trying to work this, you're going to do about the top 2/3 of the little nodule bit here. And then you're going to work on the little bits closest to the nodule. And then mainly you're going to be working on where the lightning bits join. So if it forks, those areas you want to be adding this layer of highlight mainly to the joins and the surrounding area, so that you've got, the further it is from a join, the darker it's going to be, and that's what we're working on here. So if you've got a big long piece of Ahriman Blue that's very long with no connecting parts, that's mainly going to be dark. And you can see where the highlights are going here. You're going from those joins a little bit out from each of the joins with the highlight, and leave the parts further away, just the plain Ahriman Blue. I've done a couple of different power blade styles in the past. The sort of like the blue and white kind of shimmery going dark to light, and I think I did purple and white as well. But I'll do a few different styles, because you can do it like this, you can do it with the black blade, or you can do slightly smaller bits of lightning just by where that little nodule is at the bottom. So just work all the way along the blade, highlighting these parts. And when you use your next mix, just leave a little tiny bit of this mix in the palette, because you might need it to just spread out some of those highlights a little bit later on, depending on how it goes. like so. Okay, so now we're going to add a little bit more white to the previous mix. So remember, leave a little bit of that mix to one side so that you can use it in case you need to touch it up in a bit. Add white to the rest of it and just lighten that again. And then you're just going to highlight around 50% of what you just highlighted. So around those joins you want to be leaving a little bit of the previous highlight there. And then just again, lightening up those joins. Now here I'm using an Army Painter Wargamer character brush, which has got a really great point on it. I do like this brush a lot. Never have any problems with it, providing you're dragging it from the tip, dragging it away from the tip. You will always get that nice straight line. It's got a great point so you can get it really, really thin if you want. I think the lightning on this, it's reasonably wide, but that allows you to see it quite easily. So when you see your model standing there, you can see the power field crackling around the blade. It does look pretty cool. Again, the good thing about doing this lightning is some parts are slightly wider than other parts. Doesn't matter because it's all quite mixed up anyway in the kind of power field, so it doesn't matter too much if some lines are thicker than others, some lines are thinner than others. It's all good. So now, saving a little bit of the previous mix just in case, you're going to add a little bit of white to the rest of it, lighten that up. And again, you're going to add a little highlight around all the joins and the lightning, also all the little bits around the little nodule here, and highlight the previous highlights of the nodule. You can start to see the lighting areas here really coming together. It's quite a great effect. I think the first time I tried this was on the Space Hulk when he relaunched that in the limited edition, on the Sergeant for that. I've still got that box kicking around somewhere and I still haven't finished painting the Gene Stealers, which didn't bode well for the Gene Stealer Cult Army. I've still not painted either. But still, I got the effect of this lightning from there. Okay, so again, save a little bit of the previous mix and add white to the rest of it. And you're just going to, again, start highlighting these little joins again. Again, leaving some of the other highlights underneath so you can see them fine. And you're highlighting just enough so that you can get that lighter bit on the join. Now basically we're going to be working these joins up to white, but you're basically moving it so that you get the lightning going from Ahriman blue, or the further away it is from the join, up to white. So there's just going to be a tiny little bit of white on each of those joins when you finish this. And that gives it the effect of like the power crackling, where there's more of the power covering that area. You're going to have that lighter colour. Suffice to say, you are painting both sides of the sword here. You're not just painting the one side. Where those little bits of the power field are going over the edge, I've carried those right the way over so you can see the tip of it on the opposite side, and then joined all the lightning together there in a different pattern, but so it joins in the same places. Now I'm just going to use some pure white, and this is where we're going to be doing a little tiny highlight right at those joins. So you only want a little tiny little bit, maybe a little spot in the middle, or where the lines join, you want a slightly wider bit of white there, just to make that stand out, and then a little thin trail of the white going into where all the highlights are, but I mean really, really thin. And you only want it right on the join, you don't want it spreading too far out, and you don't want it covering all of the highlights. You can see here the difference it makes just having this little bit of white, so it's got that really almost like a piercing brightness to the little joins there. Makes it look like the power field is crackling away. That's where 2 points of it are meeting and giving it that glow over the blade. Now if you did use a darker metallic like lead belcher, it would stand out a little bit more, because obviously you're going to have the darker metal with the lighter lightning going over the top of it. But as always, I try and keep the Space Marine weapons using the Model Air Chrome, so they are really, really bright. And so to get that to work properly, we're going to get a little bit more Nuln Oil gloss, Citadel shade, and we're just going to gently dab that into the gaps between the power field. The reason I'm dabbing this on is because you can get it to pool a little bit in the gaps. You don't want to go all the way over the lightning at all. You just want to keep it to the metallic parts, just so you're darkening them up a little bit. And when you darken this up, it will make the lightning stand out a little bit more. Also, if you don't do it all the way up to the lightning and you leave a little bit of the chrome showing around the edge of the lightning, it does look as though it's illuminating the blade a little bit, as the darker areas are slightly away from the power field. Once you've added these on, that is the blade complete. It's worth taking your time so that you don't sponge it on or brush it on, dab it on over any of the power field. You just want it in those metallic gaps. So carefully work at this. Because it is a shade, it is quite thin, so if you do go over any of the metallics, just quickly clean the brush and wipe that off and it'll be fine, or use your thumb to wipe that off gently. You don't want to rub too hard because you don't want to take any of the other paint off it. But if you gently rub that off, that should be fine. And once you've got this gloss layer finished, that is the completed power sword. And that is the finished blade.
Thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the video, and if you have, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any future content. Also, think about subscribing to some of our other social media, link below. Thanks very much.